Hello! Welcome back to Fuck, Marry, Music. Welcome to episode 2. Today we have KilianMusic on the show. I'm super excited. I was really surprised. When we did our pre-episode prep at some of the selections, and I'm endlessly impressed by Kilian. Before we get into that, I got a couple things I gotta talk to you guys about, okay? And for that, I made this scene right here, okay? It's the fucking repair shop, cause Layla made a oopsie, alright? Oops. It happened. It only took one episode. I gotta make some amendments. To some information that came out of my mouth last week. Firstly, I apologize to all the Metallica fans out there that I may have upset. I may have referred to Metallica's first album as Ride the Lightning, which it is not, okay? And I'm sorry. Metallica's first album that I was attempting to reference was in fact Kill 'Em All, which came out in '83. I did correctly name the song Whiplash off this album, but I referred to it several times by the name of their second album, Ride the Lightning. So, oops. So, sorry. More importantly and more embarrassingly than the Metallica debacle, I very, very mistakenly referred to Billy Talent several times as Billy Idol. What the fuck? Thank you for the follow. Even after all that! So, I was really embarrassed by both of those things, and it really bothered me the last couple weeks, so I just had to let you guys know how sorry I am about that. I accidentally pulled up a trailer for Origami's album and totally thought it was the first song in the album for like 2 minutes, and I totally just breezed by it and pretended that it didn't happen. So, I'm sorry. Consider yourself repaired. Anyways, I am so delighted, so happy, and so excited to introduce my second guest. You may or may not have heard of him. We found him probably well over a year ago now. He plays Dead by Daylight and plays Killer, which is fucking cool, but he also plays guitar in between rounds, which is even fucking cooler. So, without further ado, please welcome my second guest, Kilian!
Yo, yo,
Well, hello there,
everybody. We kindle and char and flame and ignite.
We love the shout out.
We burn up the city.
a shout out.
Drink up me hearties, yo ho.
You never know what you're going to get with those.
Yo ho, a pirate's life from me.
Look at all the friends here. Swine,
Look at all
Shank,
the
Avalicia, Raccoon is here.
Wild Yuki.
It's like I'm in the stream! As people come in, you always give them theme songs. It's the best! I was
Gotta do
telling
it.
Kilian off stream that this is kind of a parasocial moment for me because I've been watching him for quite some time, so I feel like I know him so deeply, so this is so fun. Well, not as deeply as we're gonna get, but...
Well, it's just such a great opportunity for me to do this because this is my dream. And this is, anybody who's like a regular, I mean, let me know if you want to do like a Zoom call or something, guys.
Nice.
It's less weird for me if I know who's on the other end. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm just like bearing my soul to the, to who knows
to
who.
the dark corners of the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
And screaming it loud
Ryder,
and
she,
proud.
I see you there.
I'm super excited to dive into the music stuff, but before we even start talking about that, I wanted to talk to you about streaming. I don't have a ton of musician streamer friends. You're like one of the only few. So I was curious how long you've been streaming and how you got into it, or what made you think that this was a good path for you to go down, because you're great at it. So how do we get here?
Thank you very much. Well, it's a very long journey, but I'll keep it very short. So basically, I've played the guitar mostly as just like a hobby, right? I didn't have a dream of, I want to be a rock star and take over the world and and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
No, I was basically like, when I picked it up, the internet was slow. It was dial up. And
Oh,
unlike today where you can, go click over to another website if your download's taking a while, man, I couldn't do shit.
right. Right.
So I picked up the guitar as a way to pass time. And then, but
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. And so basically, I just kept playing it for years and years and years. And then, through over the years, I had people telling me, well, why don't you join a band or something? I mean,
Right.
you can't just keep playing for yourself. I
Right.
mean, that's selfish. I mean, you got to join a band or something.
I mean,
I'm lazy, guys. I'm lazy.
leave me alone.
Yeah. So finally streaming came around, and people say, well, if you don't join a band, at least stream. Okay.
Right.
And I said, I'll think about it and I thought about it for a couple of
And
years.
thank you to that person, whoever did
Yeah,
that.
it was
A
about
real
5 or
hero here.
6 that just were always after me, just persistent.
Yes. Hell
So that's
yeah.
kind of why I started. It was basically peer pressure
Right.
that you should do something with this besides just pass time with it. And
Right.
boy, I'm really glad I did. And now it's got me thinking, well, heck, maybe someday I'll even take this show on the road, like
You
like
should.
like a real musician there. Go out on the road with it,
Right.
and it's it's just so fun.
Well, you are a real musician, and I mean, I think we're all glad that those people suggested that you do that because I love watching your content. Have you been in a band like playing out like at bars and shit like that?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. Playing. I think the most people I ever played for was about 300 or so. And
Wow.
and I wasn't the featured act though.
It
I was
doesn't
like a
matter.
fill-in.
Sure
I
you
was like a
were.
fi- I was like a kind of like a fill-in guy. They said, "Hey, our guy's sick. You know how to play the guitar? Will you fill in?" And I said, "Sure." I said,
Right.
"Sure." I said, "But do I have to?" And it was a Misfits tribute band.
Oh
So I
hell yeah!
I
What?
said, do I have to put on the face makeup, guys? And they said, all right, you're pale enough. You don't need to wear the face makeup
What?
because all the face
Yes.
paint and all that stuff. Because
Wow.
at my heart, I'm just a real lazy guy. And so it was just just kind of jamming out, like all that down picking, nope, wrong
Yeah.
sound, that kind of a thing.
Right. Someone said
And
paleness for the win.
yeah. So it worked out pretty good. And then another time I did get the courage to, do an open mic night at a place in the Washington D.C. area.
Nice, as you
And
should.
yeah, and that was fun. It was a pretty short set list, like 45 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just me all by myself, except for one time where the sound man who doubles as a saxophone player came up and delivered an amazing saxophone solo, and I didn't even have to ask him to do it. He just like saw an
That's it.
opening
He was lost in the
and
sauce. He felt it.
yeah,
He
and,
was
and,
feeling
and
it.
wow, it's like, wow, you want to join the band? It's
Yes. Isn't that great when you like vibe with another musician and they're just picking up what you're putting down? You don't have to like try
yeah,
hard.
yeah. I mean, well, the true pros, right, are able
Hmm.
just to dive in without any
Anywhere.
kind of rehearsal. They just
Hmm.
can, listen to the groove and just come right into
It's
it. And
true. It's true. This is such an asshole question to ask you, but if you did have to label yourself as a streamer, what type of streamer would you say you are?
I would have to say, I'll maybe use 2 words:
Okay.
a vibe streamer and a comfort streamer.
Neither of which were the words that I thought you were gonna say. I was like,
Neither,
horror
huh?
game and music for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, vibe and comfort because, look, I'm in this for the long haul.
Mm,
I'm in this for the long haul, and if I'm a music streamer, that could become like work, right?
that's
Like, oh, I'm a
true.
working musician or something. Fuck that. I don't want
Right.
another job.
Right.
But a vibe, a hangout,
Right.
boy, that's sustainable. I could do that for the rest of my life, right?
Right.
And I think kind of that's what I kind of deliver on, is that when you come here, it's going to be a safe space. It's going to be free of judgment. You get to be who you are. I don't care who you are. You just get to be yourself, and we hang out together. And and some nights I'm doing a lot of music. Other nights I might be doing more gaming, or just yappity yap.
Right.
Uh, but it's just kind of like, we bond, we hang out, and that's kind of the way I kind of view this stream mostly.
Yeah, you're bringing up two really good points for me. And first, I wonder, just because of the way you phrased that, do you draw a line between music being work and music still being a hobby to you, and not being something that you have to depend on to pay your bills?
Right. Yeah. 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 I definitely, um, kind of like, it's all kind of just the way that my own kind of mind thinks about something like
Mm.
that. And if I'm under some kind of like pressure or deadline or something, it becomes a little less attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time though, I want to keep getting better at this.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that sometimes I can get better is if I kind of get outside of my comfort zone and kind of push myself. And so just very recently, started doing some like channel point redemptions where I will write you a song.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and so I did the first one of those just a week or two ago, and I'm going to be doing another one. I started doing the second one earlier today, and I think that's going to kind of help push me to the next
Okay.
level.
How many
And
channel
and then
points does that cost?
yeah, well, quite a bit. But you know what? We've got maniacs who
Yeah,
work. I
I
mean, I've
want to
got
know. I'm
yeah.
asking
Well,
for me.
starting at 50,000 channel points.
Okay, all right, all right. Do they get to dictate like the genre or the sound, or is it just like
Oh
you
yeah,
get what you
yeah, yeah.
get?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so the first one, my directions were, it's got to have piano, it's got to have flute, and it's got to have violin. And so
Oh,
I stuck with that,
that's right up your alley.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. In terms of compositionally,
Yeah.
and it's amazing, the magic of computers these days,
Right.
And so I was very lucky. I did a fundraiser on the stream to get some software,
Mm.
which is the same stuff that, I mean, my goodness, these big shots like the guy who wrote, yeah, Alan Silvestri. He wrote Back to the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Future. He wrote Forrest Gump. It's the same software he
Which software
uses.
is it?
It's called Contact,
Okay.
and with a K, two
Oh, ooh,
Ks.
that's pretty
And
cool.
yeah, I was like, whoa. And so now, when you've got a budget like him, he'll write it on that, prototype it, and then he'll go to like a real orchestra. But man, there's TV studios that use
Mm-hmm.
it that don't use the real orchestra. They just use the software because
Right.
it's
It's
so
crazy
it's
like
really
that.
fun.
The technology is crazy like that. I see that
Yeah,
writer she said that was their request. So
that's right. That was Ryder She.
I
That was
can't
Ryder, who
wait
was a
for the
big
debut.
part of that
That's
fundraiser
fun.
there.
And the other point that I wanted to bring up is, as streamers, we take on a lot of responsibilities. Which aspects of streaming are most important to you? And you were kind of touching on that, but I think as streamers we see how people are doing things that we like and things we don't like. Like what are the things that like are on the top of your list of priorities?
Yeah, the number one priority above anything else, and this is by far above anything else, is the community, the family, the people who are there. That's number one, and because and me rapidly acknowledging the people who are there as best as I can. Now,
Right.
sometimes, I'm not going to ruin a ballad to just stop it in the middle
The
and then
show
type
must
in
go
and shout
on.
out. So sometimes it might take me a couple minutes, but as prompt as I can, making sure that everybody knows that I see you, I appreciate you, and I want everybody to always feel like a VIP.
I love
And
that.
and I never want anybody to think, oh, Kilian, he's got all these viewers. You can't, he's too busy
He's
or something. No.
untouchable.
Okay.
He's a
Exactly.
celebrity.
Some people have said they're uncomfortable, even with a small stream. They're like, oh, I don't feel quite comfortable. But and
Wow.
that's why you can DM me too. Okay, if you're feeling kind of shy. All
Listen,
right.
everyone, I'm opening the door here. Look at me. Look at little old me, okay? I'm here, and he's here with me. He was willing to have this conversation with me. He even took the time to answer my silly little questions. He is a people's people. He's a man of the people. All right, everyone? So I think this man is pretty genuine if he's willing to do this with me for you guys, you know? And also,
Aw.
to that point, because I'm a community streamer too, I also put the
Mhm.
community at the top of my list of priorities. And thank you for doing this, and thank you to you guys for being here, because as musicians, like, this is all we think about is the shit that we're about to get into, and nobody wants to hear our ramblings. But it does make for interesting, thought-provoking topics, because whether you're a musician or not, you listen to music in some capacity, and you're having an experience, and yours is individually different from ours. Even musician to musician, and you'll notice that Kilian and I experience music differently, and it's so cool that you guys are willing to be here, contribute, support, and just be a part of the conversation with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. And this is going to be on demand, I imagine. So
Of course, of course.
yeah.
So enough streamer talk. Let's get into the fucking the Marion of the music. I, want you to take as much time as you need for this part, because
Okay.
I think your history with music is profound, and you gave me a little tip of the iceberg explanation of it. But what role has music played in your life, and what has made you so connected to it?
Yeah. The role that it's played. Wow, goodness. Um, I've never been the best with words, and music for me, it resonated with me. For sometimes I didn't know how to describe how I felt, but I could just say, listen to that song. That song is how I feel right now. And it's just that it connects with me on a deeper level, than words do. And 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 so it's at a very young age is when I first started getting into music, and the stuff that resonated me with the most early on was the classical music. um, and yeah, it connected with me more than um, the pop music at the time, which I love it now, but back then I was almost like a 5-year-old snob.
5-year-old
It's like,
music snob?
yeah,
You're just born
oh
that
my god,
way.
take me to the opera. I don't want to listen to this.
5 years old. Where's Bach? Beatles who? That's awesome.
Just a little bit, a little bit. But
What
now I love and appreciate all that
what
old stuff.
was pop at that time? What was it that was
Yeah,
turning
yeah,
you
yeah.
off? What was angering
So
your
my older
5-year-old
sister,
soul?
so my older sister, who's 8, 9, 10 years older, she would kind of listen to Depeche Mode, Madonna,
Okay.
all different kinds of
Okay.
kind of stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Maybe a little Belinda Carlisle or something.
Okay,
And look,
that's
I love
fair.
all of these now. I love all of these now. But
That's so
back then I
funny.
just yeah.
Okay. So what are some early memories of being exposed to music that grabbed you in terms of things that you did like?
Boy. I'd have to say that ooh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I think seeing the movie Amadeus, and I'm not sure
Oh,
if you ever seen that.
I've
That
seen
came out
it.
when I was 4 years old. Okay,
Who
and
let you watch that?
yeah, yeah. So, well, you might
Wow.
have seen the director's cut. Okay, they,
I saw
they
some
did.
stuff.
Yeah,
I saw
I
some
think that's
stuff.
the director's cut. I don't think they show that in the regular one.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I saw that movie at 4 years old, and so that was like wow.
Right.
And I said, and I think that kind of like reinforced in me just how cool it was because it provided the visuals to go with all the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like seeing what these instruments look like when you're four, you don't really know where all the sound is coming from. It's
Right.
just, it can be like, wow, this is an amazing, cool sound, but uh, it really gave me an appreciation of how much it was involved in it, and then just seeing kind of like the team, the team aspect of orchestral music.
Right.
Seeing all these people working together to produce this amazing sound.
Right.
I mean, I found that inspirational. You know, just the teamwork and coordination involved.
It's a
And
band.
so yeah, so
It's a
that's
band.
kind of like what got me hooked on it very early on. Wow, all these people working together, and
Interesting. Did you play any of those instruments? Did you play like the
you know,
piano?
my dad had a trumpet, and I gave it a shot,
Oh,
but didn't get very far with it, and
oh,
that was kind of, you know,
that's a rough
kind of,
one.
yeah,
The
yeah,
last
yeah,
guy
yeah,
played the trumpet.
yeah. Well,
What are
I
the
think
odds?
I think it would be a fun one to do, but yeah, I didn't get very far with that one, and
Right.
and
A
then so no,
piano?
I didn't really, sure, we had a piano, and pretty much everybody, my grandparents had piano, we had a piano,
Hmm.
so I would dabble on it, but no, I didn't really take any lessons with it. I didn't really have any, instant desire to play music,
Right.
and that's
Huh.
what's kind of interesting.
That
That
is
came later
interesting.
on. But no,
Hmm.
for me, it was just the listener experience, just basically, using it as kind of like a motivational tool in a way,
Yeah.
uh, you know, as I got into kind of, elementary and middle school and stuff, it just was more of like a kind of like a motivational, hey, let's get the homework done, or
Right, but
let's
but classical all the way. Like you were just
yeah,
motivated.
for the most part,
It's
because
honestly insane to
you know,
me.
and then and my dad, he was big into classic rock, and so
Hmm.
when I would be driving with him as a kid, he would always have the classic rock, and so that kind of got into my system a little bit.
Right.
The classic rock, it got into where I appreciated it, but it wasn't like inspiring me to pick up a musical
Right.
instrument. It just was kind of, oh, okay, that's all right.
So crazy. This is such a perfect example of how different people's musical journey is, like how we got here,
Yeah,
Like why you're holding a guitar right now. Like
yeah,
I feel like most guys are like, yeah, my dad used to make me listen to Motley Crue, and like you're like, nah, fuck that. I really like Mozart, I thought Mozart was cool as fuck. I'm very, very curious about something that you told me again off stream, um, and that was in regards to which years were most impactful to your music experience, and
mm,
you kind of gave me a little
yeah.
bit of background on this.
Well, for me, the where it was 1991,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say 1992 also. But that was the where the scene totally, the music scene for me totally changed. It was, just to provide a little context. You had hair metal, right? And I just didn't find those guys very relatable. You know,
What do you
you
mean?
know, it's like I just didn't see myself as, hey, I want to grow up and be one of those guys or something like that. I just didn't relate to it very much.
Hmm.
I mean, I do like the theater, like, like I mentioned, I liked opera and all of
And wait,
that.
how old were you
So
in 1991?
11.
Okay, just making sure we're still on the same timeline
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I like
11.
the theater, not like a Broadway. You're like, I like the theater. Take me to the opera.
Yeah.
11 years old, and then you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
there's rock music.
Yeah, and so that year, that was the year where I was just, riding in the car with my dad, uh, basically coming home from grandma's or whatever. And they've got stuff, like you've heard, just the kind of stuff like,
Yes.
a whole lot of love, so that kind of
He
like stuff.
shreds.
Kind of like that stuff, it's just kind of like you're just kind of used to it, or like AC/DC.
Yes, Kilian.
So there, that's the kind of stuff. But all of a sudden, something else comes on the radio.
Yes.
And that was like,
Proud.
that was, yeah. Say your prayers, little. Yeah.
Forget
I was
my
like,
son.
what is this? I mean, and that was wow. And I was that music. It just was a real eye opener.
So
And
what
then
was
a
hitting
month
your
later-
11-year-old brain when that happened?
Yeah, because I'm starting to, get testosterone at the same time. And here's this man music, yeah.
James Hetfield.
Yeah. And then a month later,
Yeah.
and just wow.
Right.
So the sounds really of those two records, they came out 1 month after each other, back to back, which is like nothing I had ever heard
Blowing
before.
your 11-year-old 1991 mind.
Yeah, something that the other stuff just wasn't doing it for me so much. Now, of course, I mean, there was all kinds of stuff, heavy, really ultra extreme stuff going on. But as an 11-year-old, I didn't really have any exposure to it. And the internet wasn't a thing, guys. And if you wanted to, pretty much, you needed something to crack it into the mainstream,
Right.
to, for you to really kind of get exposure to it, at least, as an 11-year-old.
Right. Right.
Those two, they opened my ears that there's other stuff out there. And then, of course, I would go backwards from that to their earlier stuff, like Nirvana with Bleach, Metallica with Master of Puppets, stuff like that. And then I kind of, whoa, okay.
So what was the first? Two questions, two-parter here. But what was the first live show you ever went to?
The first live show, yeah, I'll always remember this. And so you might know this song. We built this city. We built this city on rock
Starship,
and roll.
dude. Jefferson
Yeah,
Airplane.
Jefferson Starship.
Right. Jefferson Starship at
We
that
built
point.
this city on rock and
Dude,
roll.
my dad used to make me listen to that song, which was such
most
bullshit because he would
the
make
most corporate sellout kind of a,
Dude, he would be like, he'd play a song and it'd be like, one pill makes you larger. And I'm like, that's Gracie Slick. I'm like, that's Starship or whatever. And then he'd be like, who's this? And it'd be like, we built this city. Like,
I know.
happening?
I mean, exactly. I mean, now as an adult, I mean, it's kind of like, well, what it was like, and they knew what they were doing. I mean, and they were being
Yes.
transparent about it.
Yes, big
That
breath.
basically,
Exactly.
sure, we were hippies and we were against the man and all this stuff and revolution and all that. Well, now we're just in it for the money and we're proud of it.
Exactly.
It's like the Wall Street greed is good, and we're gonna celebrate this.
Speaking of
And
greed,
so-
thank you for the follow flamingo dragon.
So that was my first show.
I just asked you the first show you ever went to, but the best live show you've ever been to? That's a very
Yeah,
different
boy,
question.
now that's a tough one.
It is. It should
But
be.
yeah, I'll you know, I'll go with The Cure. And
Really?
yeah, The Cure, and I got to see him. You see, I most of my life I lived in or around San Francisco, but
Mm,
I'm east now,
a Cali
Washington
boy.
D.C. Washington D.C. These days.
I'm a Cali
But for
girl
most of my
too.
life, 30-ish something years, I was in San Francisco area,
Do you miss
and
it?
so I still go back, maybe once a year or so.
Okay.
And part of me thinks, but when I left, I was wanting to leave because I'd lived there
Mm,
my whole life, and here, man, I didn't want to be the same guy that lives in the same town that he was
right.
born in, and so some people do that, and boy, I felt like I needed, so I went all the way to the other side of the country.
I've I've been there,
And
done that several times, my friend.
yeah,
So I get it.
and so part of me kind of misses, I mean, it's pretty dang cool out there. The weather's sunny and 75 like every day.
I'm a
And
Bay Area girl. I'm
and-
from San Jose. So
oh, you're from San Jose,
yeah, I'm
so
right
yeah,
there with you.
gotcha. So it's a really nice place. Um, but I saw The Cure at where the Giants play baseball. I guess they call it Oracle Park
When
now,
was
right?
that?
They were, it was 2004, is
Ooh.
so that was probably my favorite show or best show, would probably seeing The Cure at Oracle Park in 2004.
They were probably still
And
pretty good in 2004 too.
say what?
They were probably still pretty good in
Oh,
2004.
who, The Cure?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they're still good. They're still good. But yeah, they were really,
Live,
really,
they're still
really.
good?
Yeah. I mean, I unfortunately I had tickets to see to see them this
Dang.
year, but somebody, the person I was going to go with came down sick, and I said, well, I'm not going to go without you, and so
Oh
I
my
sold the
god.
tickets.
That
Yeah,
is
so
a
I sold.
real friend right there.
Yeah, I
That
said
is a
I'm not going to
good
go.
friend.
Yeah, and those tickets they got bought instantly. I
I
mean, so
bet.
they still got a big following. But in 2004, man, it was an awesome show. And here's the thing about that: when you go to a goth show, it isn't, like super
They're
goth
not
or something,
even.
but but when you go
That's
to like
crazy.
like a goth show, you don't have as much trouble getting to the front.
Is that
so,
true?
so so now if you leave, boy, you'll have trouble getting back. Okay, all
Okay,
right,
got it.
being the girl that I went with, we got up right up to the very front, like the very front at the baseball stadium, super close to the stage, and got to see the opening band was, I think, called Interpol,
Yeah,
and they,
yeah.
yeah, so they were doing their thing, and then The Cure came out, and man, they were musically great, and and the other thing that I really love and respect about it, and then not that long after, a few years later, I got to see them at Coachella. That was another one where they did, and what really impressed me about them there is that they love their fans so much that they're like, fuck it, we're gonna go past the curfew, and
Okay.
we're gonna have to pay $250,000 fine. We're gonna
Right.
do that to
It's punk
put on
rock.
a put on a real
It's
show.
punk rock
And then
right
they
there.
like pull the plug on them, and they are running on generators, and
Hmm.
they're still going.
Yeah.
And just that kind of dedication to their fans, I thought was just really, really cool.
Yeah, I
And
think the streamer parallel to that is the community, everything for the community.
yeah, they're like a group that really cares about their fans. And then, just in this latest Ticketmaster thing, they were like, making sure Ticketmaster doesn't do these ridiculous fees.
Mhm.
And just, it just seemed like that, like they went to bat for their fans, and if it hurts their bottom line a little bit, they're like, well, you know what, we're doing good enough, and we're just gonna put on a great show for the fans. So
We
I
love it.
really like that show. And then of course, I mean, some of these, probably a lot of people would mention, um, like Iron Maiden, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
They they put a lot of effort into the visual side,
Right.
and I'll add Judas Priest. they also
Okay.
they also they also put a pretty good effort into the visual side.
How important is
Um,
that to you in a live show when it comes to rock
Ghost
music?
is another one. The Ghost, I enjoyed a couple of their shows, and then yeah, important to me. It's a little bit important.
Really?
Now I usually don't go alone though. Okay,
Okay.
I usually don't go alone, and sometimes it's kind of a hard. The music is a hard sell,
Mm.
but if it's got the visual aspect going on, um, like every single time that I've been to Iron Maiden, I went with somebody who wasn't a fan, and they come out of that experience sometimes becoming
Like,
an even bigger fan than me.
yeah.
They're like I like them, right?
Yeah.
But this one girl that I went with, she became a super fan of them after that show, like really dedicated.
Right.
And then Ghost was another one. I went with somebody who was not into them musically, but then just the visuals and the whole experience. Um, you know, I, so I do actually put a little weight onto that, just because as much as like I like a band like Slayer or something like that, they
Mm-hmm.
don't put any effort into it. They're just kind of just go out there and just headbanging. And
That's so interesting to me. Do you like Slipknot?
yeah, I do like Slipknot.
Have you seen them live?
I wouldn't listen to them all day long, but the
Right,
live
fair.
experience, yeah, very powerful live experience,
Right?
absolutely. And then the way that they fire up the crowd,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
because that's where it takes on a whole other level, where it isn't just the band, it's the whole energy of everybody there
Right.
that can make it such a powerful experience. So yeah, I do like them and appreciate them.
So,
And that's a band where you might listen to their record at home and think, wow, this is heavy, right?
mm-hmm.
And then you come out, you leave the show, and you put that record on. Wow, that is not anything. It's like that's weak. That is like
Yeah.
weak compared to the live show.
Yeah,
And
to what I
it's
just
something
saw.
that you thought was so heavy could seem, wow, that isn't heavy at all compared to the live
Isn't that
show.
interesting? But don't you think and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but like it can get like the live show can get away with being heavier and it's like more palatable, you know? Like you'll still enjoy it more than the record even if the record is not as heavy. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, well, yeah. Well, yeah. The thing too is that with the live experience, you're not going to be sweating like individual notes or
Right.
something, like you're not going to be analyze maybe as a musician you might analyze, so you catch yourself analyzing and not really experiencing the music, right? You're
Right.
kind of, oh, what are they doing there, what are they doing? The
Yeah.
live show, man, you just feel it and go with it.
Yeah.
And
You're like, I don't even give a shit. What did he
yeah,
play?
yeah. It's just like a more pure connection,
Mm-hmm.
like feeling your body vibrating at the same frequency as the instruments because it's so loud.
And
You
as
know.
everybody else standing around you, like you're
Yeah.
all like doing something together, you know,
Yeah,
we're all having an
exactly.
interaction even if we never speak to each other. It's like this very profound moment that's happening to us.
Yeah. There's a connection with everybody there,
Right.
and at least for, yeah, during the concert, you aren't caring about what their beliefs are or what their background is. You're all on board with having a good
I
time.
believe I believe you're my brother because you're standing next to me right now. That's it. That's
Yeah,
all I believe.
exactly,
That's my belief.
exactly.
I feel like we could do this forever.
Hmm.
I have to ask this one question that I've been kind of grilling musicians about, because I have strong feelings about it myself, but in what ways do you think your knowledge of music has changed the way you listen to or appreciate music? Especially because you weren't like, you started playing when you were a little lad,
Hmm.
and then, were like a musician your whole life. You kind of transitioned into that, later on. Has it
Yeah.
changed for you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it improved my appreciation, or not improved, but it's added to my appreciation
Okay.
so much, because when as coming from somebody who didn't know anything about music, like, I don't know what's the difference between a bass guitar and a guitar. It's like, like what,
Doesn't matter.
it's it comes at you like this whole kind of wall of sound. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And and eh, when you don't really know anything, it's kind of hard to appreciate all of the different elements going on. But when I started playing music, it started giving me an awareness of, oh, okay, so that's what a bass guitar does,
Right.
or that's what a guitar does, and the interplay aspect of it, and just being able to, rather than have an appreciation for the whole, I could have an appreciation for all the different individual elements. So, and then of course the whole. And so now when I listen to music, right, I can listen to it, just kind of like, just kind of listen to everything all at once, and then kind of focus in and listen in on just something. And I can listen to the same song 10 times without getting sick of it, just because I'm listening to some other aspect
And
of
you
it
hear it
and
differently every
appreciating
single
it.
time.
Yeah, so that, I would say that's where it really, it's enhanced my appreciation the most, is just being able to, you know it improved my ears so I can hear everything. And then starting to write stuff, that also really helped my ear out also. And like, I'm not a drummer, but I write drum parts,
Mm-hmm.
and having to write drum parts for my own songs, it's kind of like teaching me about drums, and
Right.
making, writing drum fills, and just the interplay between the instruments. It's just so much fun. So I think yeah, that's the primary difference between listening to music,
I
and then also just kind of like, you know um, uh, as somebody who didn't know anything about music, right? The primary thing, I think, for a lot of people is the beat, right? Or the
mm,
rhythm or the groove.
mm.
That's like the primary thing for people, is that. Um,
What's
but
driving it?
once Yeah, what's driving it, like, for
Mm.
instance, you can have a band, as long as they keep the beat. You aren't going to really notice if the notes are kind of weird. It's
Killian,
so
don't
much.
tell them that. That's our secret. Hello? I don't. I disavow everything he said. No, it's so true though. It's so interesting to me. What's funny to me is I almost feel the same way, but I almost look at it as a negative now. And um I could never really say that anything about music is a negative for me, because I love it so much. Obviously, we're sitting here having this fucking
Hmm.
conversation, um, picking it apart, and I love it. But I, I sometimes feel now like that I almost don't appreciate it as much the more I listen to it, because I'm picking things out in it instead of just listening
Mm.
to it. Like, I can't just drown it out and be like, "Oh, that's pretty." Like, I'm always like, without even trying to, I'm like hyper fixating on things. Like, I'm like, oh, that fucking bass line. I've heard this song for 20 years, and now I'm listening to it, and it's like it's the first time I ever noticed that there's this like polyrhythm bass line thing happening. And I'll sit there and I'll stop and I'll replay that section of the song. I'll be like, that's a different time signature than I thought it was in. Like stupid things that don't matter. And I feel like sometimes it prevents me from really just like appreciating the music for what it is. And I still love it, and I'm never gonna stop doing it. But I almost feel like it's the same reason you gave that I'm like, I almost don't. I almost wish that I didn't pick it apart as much. I almost wish
Now,
I knew
does that
less.
only apply to songs you've heard before, though? Or does that also apply to brand new stuff for you? Do you pick apart brand new stuff too?
That's a really great question because I think I think for the most part when I hear something new, I'm just looking for a vibe. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Ooh, do I vibe with this?" You know? And then if it's something that really gets me going right away, like I really click with it, I'll immediately start I'm like, "Why?" Like, what is
Yeah.
that? Who's doing this to me? Is it the
Yeah.
bass player? Is it the drummer? Like, who, you know?
I think that's great though that you have that ability now to kind of understand why this sounds so good to you, right?
Yeah. It's good and
Otherwise, yeah.
bad.
But there is I understand there's a beauty to the mystery. There's
Right.
this. I remember this when people figured out why does a rainbow have the colors that it does. It was a mystery to people, but then science explained it about dividing light. And
Right.
some people were all like, well, you've just ruined the beauty of a rainbow for me, explaining it to me scientifically. Right.
Right.
But other people are like, they appreciate even more,
Right.
understanding it, how it works.
And that's
There's some people, yeah, that just like the mystery of it.
that's kind of the joke of it is it's like it is the reality, you know?
Hmm.
Like like if it grabs you enough that you're willing to dissect it to the point that you're like pulling the
Yeah.
parts out to
Yeah.
individual pieces, it obviously was something so beautiful that you took it to that point. So I have to like remind myself of that sometimes, but
Yeah.
I do find that I'll be listening to something with someone and I'll just be like, that bass line. And they're like having a conversation with me and I'm like, I'm sorry, were you still talking? Like, you know,
Yeah.
especially
Well, that's great that you could still get lost in it like that, immersed.
genre talk. So I don't know if you knew when you agreed to be on my show
Hmm.
that um, this is in fact a genre based show. I'm obsessed with genres. And as I told you, it's not because I'm like, you know, praying to the genre god at night that genres
Hmm.
exist. I'm just obsessed with the way that people get very gatekeepy and purist
Uh-huh.
about them. And
Sure.
I'm a big metalhead, so it kind of stemmed from all these conversations with other metalheads and the metal subgenres, and people are like death
Uh-huh.
metal, black metal, traditional metal, like punk rock,
Right.
thrash metal, whatever.
Right.
And then I started creating all these questions that we're going to get into. So, um, in terms of genre and breaking it down, how important do you feel it is to acknowledge genres or categorize music into genres?
For me personally, um, I've reached the point in my journey where music is music,
Right,
and I don't really refer to genres so much.
right.
Just for me personally, genres for me now, not speaking for you or anybody else, okay?
You couldn't!
But
You couldn't,
it's
Kilian!
it's kind of like I don't want to. It's like a substitute for using my own ears or using my own
Oh my
judgment, you
god!
know. And somebody's saying, "Well, that's that kind of metal, or that's that
Somebody
kind
write
of
that down.
music," you know. I don't want to substitute my own thinking or my own beliefs with somebody else's label,
Wow.
and so I don't really classify too much stuff. Now, for the sake of conversation, you've got to use it. You've got to
Right.
the same thing with, if you're a musician and you're in a band, right? You might say, hey, play the minor third above this, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
play this. You label something,
Right.
right? You'll label something.
Right.
Hey, can you give me a little bit more of a rockabilly feel here?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
hey, can you? So it's useful for that. It's really useful
Great
for that,
example. That's a great
right?
example.
like, hey, I want to have a little bit more of, death metal feel on this song or
Said no
something,
one
right?
ever.
Yeah, let's make it more ugly,
Let's make
guys.
it less death
Yeah,
metal-y in the chorus. You
yeah,
think we can handle that?
exactly. So it's really useful for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really am not a fan of labels, or you know, but look, music is, you need them to navigate. I mean, there's literally millions and millions of bands, and if there's a certain kind of sound you're looking for without genres or labels, how are you going to find what you're looking for,
Right.
right? So I totally get it, but in a sense, I really like just music is music,
Right.
and that's kind of the way I kind of view it. And for my own stuff, um uh yeah, I think it's going to be tough to for people to categorize me a little
Right.
bit.
And I think I think I agree with you to an extent that there's good and bad to it. I think to an extent it's not important in the way that people place importance on it.
Hmm.
Um, where I think it becomes very interesting in like historically looking at genres
Yeah.
is at what point are we analyzing the like sonically the music, and at what point are we analyzing the culture that it represents for that time period,
Hmm.
especially when you're talking about punk, when you're talking about hair metal, thrash metal, things like that.
Sure.
um, and then what also is interesting to me is when when you get the real gatekeepers of like punk and metal,
Yeah.
it's because sonically they're experiencing something in a way and they're associating it with this category or associating it with that. And then
Right.
I want you to explain it. And I know you can't. I know you can't. When it
Uh-huh.
gets down to the nitty-gritty of like where you place things,
Ooh,
when it
sure.
like detailed subgenres,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But when people are really dying on their fucking hills about it, those are the people that I want to talk to, you know?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are you up there? Okay. When I asked you your favorite genres, the
Hmm.
first one you said was classical,
Yeah.
which
And
I
even that one
was.
has subgenres,
It
baroque and
does.
romantic and
So we're just gonna talk about classical and romantic today. You gave me a couple examples, and I did pull them up for us to listen to briefly. There we go. That's example number one. First of all, cheers. I feel so fancy listening to that on my stream right now. Hello? That was Symphony number 40. This is Symphony number 41. And I just loved the animation of this conductor. Which instrument section do you like the most?
oh boy. Well, at this part, the strings are the most prominent, but the interplay between the woodwinds and the brass.
Yeah.
But I think the strings could stand alone. The brass, if you took everything else out, it might not be
Oh, for sure. Brass would be
comprehensible,
like
but the
the
strings could
least
stand alone
interesting.
there.
Before we get to the other one, I'm just curious how do you recognize like complex or just like not 4/4 time signatures right away in popular music or in rock music?
Um, y- sometimes. I mean, like I'm like everybody else, where I'm kind of nodding my head, tapping my foot along, and then it's something like, "Well,
And you're
hey,
like,
wait a second!" It
I didn't get
repeat.
to four that time.
It started repeating in a
Yeah.
different place. I'm not like usually. I'm not like consciously trying to do it, but I'll notice it
Okay.
a lot of times.
So I was, asking just because a lot of, especially Baroque music,
Yeah.
was in three, which is not super
Right.
common, and it has a very specific feel. you know.
Yeah, I
Music
will
of that
just
sort of
add
things.
one thing about classical music and time signatures and things like that. What I really love about it is how it can breathe, right?
Right.
It isn't like fixed into like a nice tidy grid. Sure, it can, okay, but it's like a living that music is alive,
Right.
and in the hands of one conductor, something can sound total have a totally different feel,
Right.
and it almost kind of makes me wonder because there's so much variety. Um, what did it originally sound like? And I was reading gosh, I forget who it was. It was a composer who basically was bemoaning the fact about uh, his work in the hands of another conductor, right? Because
Mm.
somebody else changes. They don't
It's
pick up.
emotional. It's
They don't pick
emotional.
up on what should be emphasized.
Right.
We want this to be louder, or we want this to slow it down and just gradually and so that's the one thing I kind of appreciate. And then also um, without like a drummer just kind of almost kind of like primal
Mhm.
with classical it's more implied
Right.
rather than kind of driven into your head.
Right.
This is the beat. And
Yeah. And with in classical music they write in like, allegro or like whatever.
sure.
And you'll still, I did choral music professionally forever, and the the choral directors, the conductors, if you will, of the chorus, it would be the same thing. It's exactly what this guy's doing, and I resonated with that. The
Hmm. Yeah.
and it's like you
Yeah.
you get what they're trying to
Yeah.
convey,
Yeah,
and
he's playing the orchestra as his personal instrument.
but like you get it, and
Yeah.
that's that there is gray area there, but music is such an emotional thing
Yeah.
where like when you get the vibe, you catch the vibe, and some
Yeah.
people are good at it, at interpreting it, and some people are selfish about it. My question is
Yeah.
for Kilian: if you could play any other instrument other than guitar, what instrument would that be?
Okay. Well,
Any other
besides,
instrument.
yeah, but besides learning how to be a very awesome singer, I would love that. But besides that, an actual like instrument, I just think the saxophone is so expressive.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just so expressive, and I mean it
It's
can
a
make you
sexy
cry.
instrument.
it's and
Yeah.
that's what I love about guitar is that it can make you fired up. Let's go get them, guys. Or it can make
Yeah.
you weep. It can make you relaxed. You can do so much with it, and I feel like the saxophone is you can definitely hit hit the heartstrings with the saxophone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how it go.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wonder if you or anyone here has ever heard like like a guitar player who can play really technical like guitar riffs that sound just like Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton or whoever, but it doesn't feel. Have you ever
Yeah,
heard that?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who's probably the best I ever heard doing Jimi Hendrix is Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah, well, Stevie
Yeah,
Ray Vaughan's
yeah,
fucking goat, man.
yeah.
Feel.
There's this one guy in New York named Andy Aladort who's I liked him. He actually would play with the band of Gypsies. The actual
Mhm.
guys that Jimmy played with. Like they said, "Hey, Andy, come play with us." And so that's pretty cool to hear too. But
Yeah.
you can tell it's him. It's not like he's not a Jimmy clone. He's not trying to be.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there's some people that you just can't. you know, the notes, you know, it isn't just the notes. There's so much more to it than that.
Exactly.
For Symphony 40 and 41 that we heard back to back, just the difference. You see, Mozart was not a one-dimensional guy.
Right.
He could now. I've listened to. I don't think I've listened to all of his symphonies, but there's only like a couple of them that are in minor key.
Right.
Most of them are major, and that was one of them was the minor one. The other one that was minor was Symphony 25, which I kind of fool around with on guitar once in a while.
I always loved Mozart. I also loved Amadeus, and that was probably one of
Yeah.
my favorite. I'm a big like pop culture person, and that kind of like seeped
Hmm.
its way in there. So
Yeah.
I was a fan of that too. But I liked Bach. I know you said you were kind
Yeah.
of into Bach. Bach was my dude. I
Oh yeah, yeah,
was
well, yeah. Well, Bach was he was an absolute genius,
I was a
and
Baroque girl.
yeah,
I'm
and
still a
and I
broke girl. Hey.
yeah I definitely love his stuff, and then he also could get heavy too, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And a virtuoso, like a young virtuoso. Yeah.
Yeah, you know that kind of
Hell yeah.
yeah, get that kind of shredder kind of stuff going on for.
All right, so this is your requested build up moment.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The dynamics, guys. Boy, yeah. Listen to this. I'll
Going
shut
on a
up so you can
journey.
hear it.
We're going on a journey.
It starts real quiet.
Everyone grab a drink and put your pinky out.
Yeah. Here comes. Kind of gonna start swelling. Here comes. Kind of gonna start swelling.
I love it. I was so excited. I was so excited when you said classical music because period, bitch. Not nearly getting enough clout right now, classical music. So, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to us. We deserved that. We needed that. Thank you, Kilian.
Yeah.
All right.
My pleasure. My pleasure. My goodness.
All right. So, while we could listen to that forever, let's talk about rock, baby.
Okay. Well,
You
I'll
know
just
you
say that
want
was my
to.
favorite part because it's unparalleled the dynamics of that, right?
It
The
is.
build up. I mean, and then and you hear people, you know, ripping that off, even to this day,
Ripping
and
that
using that.
off?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like listen to like twist and shout, ah, ah, same kind of thing, you know, building up, taking the notes of like the chord one by one, but doing it vocally rather than instrumentally, and then sustaining it on that one note, like the seventh that wants to resolve. And then boom, 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 boom. You know, like the build up. So yeah, people doing,
Yes!
you
Killian came
know.
out here to drag all popular music ever. He said, "How dare you have harmonies?" I cannot.
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
no,
Twist and
it's
shout.
brilliant. It's brilliant. You know, like it's brilliant.
It's
And
awesome.
you know, and look, and the Beatles and all those guys would say, hey, you know, I mean, they took inspiration from it,
How do you
and
feel about the Beatles?
I absolutely love the Beatles.
You
I
do.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's really neat how they have distinct periods. Like you can't just put them in a genre, right? Because they have all these different periods where they're kind
That's a
of
really
like,
good point, Killian.
you know,
You
they
can't just
go
put them in a
from I
genre.
want to hold your hand
Hey.
to then they're playing sitar, and the lyrics are all abstract, and they went on a real journey.
You're taking me on a journey. I'm constantly surprised by your musical takes. I thought for sure when you were like, you know, Depeche Mode sucks and like, yeah, Madonna, like
That was
whatever.
the 5-year-old version
you know,
of me.
well, yeah, the 5-year-old version of you that was like, take me to the opera. That you were gonna be like, fuck the Beatles, but you're a fan of the Beatles. I'm surprised.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love their stuff for sure.
Hi,
And
Church.
I just love how diverse they are, right?
Yes.
And how each one of you can tell which member wrote which song.
Right.
Like Paul has a very distinctive kind of a happy, kind of innocent quality to him. John's a little more edgy. George has this kind of sweetness to him, and Ringo is just a goofy guy.
I love that. That's so cool to me. That you can pick out like the artists themselves in the band and the
you really can without even looking at the credits. You could, oh, that's a Paul song.
Do you like
Oh, that's
Wings?
a John song. Wings, I didn't really listen to him all that much.
Do you know Maybe I'm Amazed? Do you know that
But
song?
of course I know that song.
I mean, that's iconic, that song.
Yeah, of course that. But what I'm saying is beyond that, I don't know too many other ones, you know. But definitely that one. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you have it. And it's got that nice guitar part. Dun, 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 dun. Down, down, down. Yeah, exactly. Down, 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 down.
It's a great song. We should collab that. I'll do the piano part and sing it, and you can do the.
Yeah. Do that part there.
So you've already touched on this a little bit, but what eras of rock would you say you grew up with, or you were exposed to the most growing up?
Yeah. So growing up, it was definitely, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s growing up. So stuff from, you know, like. Get you running. Head out on that highway. You know that? Fire all your guns at once and explode in space. Yeah. So kind of like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I would hear a lot of that on kind of the radio. Like, you see, when I grew up, you know, basically you had to either hear it on the radio or own the music. There was no internet to download from.
Right.
So it was, and that's the other thing too, is that, yeah, boy, things were really gate kept, right? I mean, so sometimes like you would get to, so maybe you could trade tapes or something like that with somebody. Record
you remember
off
how
the radio.
much time that took to like take an 8-track and like record something on it, and then like catch it at the right time, and then keep recording, and then fucking who's doing that?
And so the other thing too is so the exposure wasn't quite as much as, you know, today, but anyway, so it was kind of stuff like that, stuff that you'd kind of hear on the radio. That's kind of what I grew up with. So you know, songs like that, you know, they don't really, you know, hit, you know, touch my heart. You know, that's like just kind of like a vibe,
right.
you know, just kind of, hey, rocking out.
Right.
And so I didn't really feel that deep connection with it so much. I like it, but it isn't like, wow, this is a powerful statement that, you know,
means
changes my, you know, something like that, or
right.
you know, that kind of a thing. Aerosmith or Zeppelin, like we did, or
right.
Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath was one that, the first time I heard them, I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting.
So, okay, so that's what I was going to ask you next. Before I move on, Church said if Wolfgang and Beethoven and Bach, um, a lot of the classical composers would be alive, they would all like different types of music and instruments available. I think that's true as well. And
Oh
they were
yeah,
from
yeah.
different time periods as well. But
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like for Bach, right? Just the so much of his stuff was written on the harpsichord,
right,
right? Because
right,
he was writing when the piano was not even a thing,
right.
and so as you know, the harpsichord, it doesn't have the dynamic. It plays at one volume,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
and there's
and
no
that's it.
sustain, and that's just it. It's
Yeah. So
just bink, bink, bink,
just think
bink, bink,
he
bink.
would be like, over the moon to be able to. I think he would probably change the way he wrote some of these
For sure,
things.
for sure,
The availability and the instruments, absolutely.
for sure. So getting back to what you were just saying, what bands did you think were super cool when you were growing up, or what kept you inspired?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that whole kind of grunge period, uh, you know, grunge and Metallica, and then later on other metal bands. They just kind of like they were just people who were comfortable in their own skin,
Right.
right? And didn't give a fuck what other people thought. And I just thought that was like really powerful,
Right.
just going out there playing your music. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But you're doing what you like. And,
Right.
and so I really I thought those were the most powerful, the ones that really weren't trying to conform. Now, of course, when something becomes popular, then everybody starts copying it, and then it becomes kind of like its own, kind of a, thing,
So that's
But
actually an interesting way to put it. That's a different perspective than I guess I think about it, because I was going to ask you to that point, as I've said in the past, how much of the attraction to it is the culture, right? Because it's more of the fuck you, I'm just out
yeah,
here doing what I'm doing,
right,
which was where my next question was going to be. But then what you kind of followed up with was
yeah,
it's like almost not a culture until people start copying it and make it that.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's just
yeah.
one group of people doing something unique and different. Then all of a sudden it's a bunch of people
Oh,
trying to
right.
do what that guy did.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it starts off kind of like a little bit of rebellion, right? They're rebelling against all of the hair metal people,
Right.
They're rebelling against it. But then all of a sudden, people are going to
Everybody's.
rebel against those guys, right? so,
Which could
so
kind of be the dynamic between Metallica and Nirvana, arguably, if you really wanted to
mhm.
point genre fingers, as I
Mhm.
do, you know. Um, I think that you're introducing a different perspective to
Mhm.
culture, to genre culture, than I was willing to accept. So like, could you say that there was maybe a band that started like the hair metal movement, for example, that was like super original, and it was like they were the pioneers of it, and then a bunch of other assholes came and made it really not
Right.
cool anymore.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know that, but
I
I
have
imagine it
no
would have been
idea who.
somebody in Los Angeles, some group in Los Angeles where all these groups started to, originated from, and but they, you know, look, I think it was David Bowie, right, who basically said it best, where originality, it kind of comes from combining your influences in a unique way,
Right.
right? In
Yeah.
a different quantity. And look at what David Bowie was doing. Like he would put on the whole Ziggy Stardust kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my theory, and I haven't done any research or anything. I'm just off the top of my head. I could imagine somebody, when you think about when hair metal came out, going, "Hey, look at David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust, but let's just make the music heavy."
Right.
Right. And there you got hair metal, just
Right.
like that. And so it could have just started something like that. Right?
Okay, so first of all, Genre Fingers band name called it. Thank you, Madame Hands, for saying that, and I'll be writing that down, keeping it in my band
Oh
name
yeah,
book.
Dawkins in Europe. Yeah.
Genre Fingers. I want to talk about both of these albums. So when I asked you if there were any pivotal moments in your musical life,
Mm-hmm.
you had mentioned 1991. You
Yeah.
mentioned the Black Album and Nevermind by Nirvana. Now, keep in mind, audience, okay, and especially those of you that like rock music, understand rock music, classic rock, grunge rock, all of those things, the era in which they live, how we understand and appreciate them, right? He, might I remind you, was a 5-year-old that wanted to be taken to the opera and discovered rock music from the Black Album when he was 11 years old, okay? And this was his come to Jesus moment with rock and roll. Like, that's kind of incredible, and that's why, as corny as it is at face value, Nevermind and the Black Album are goated and forever going to stand out as pivotal moments in the rock scene. People who were already involved in rock and roll would look at that and be like, oh, that's corny. But if you weren't already rocking the fuck out to Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Derek and the Dominoes, Janis Joplin, The Doors and all that shit, and then all of a sudden you came from listening to Mozart to like, wow, the Black Album really changed my life, that's an incredible moment. So, that being said, I'm curious before we get into this, did you listen to any other Metallica albums before the Black Album?
No, they were never on the
None.
radio. They never were. There was never a Metallica song on the radio at all, ever.
Have you listened to them now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. So this was just my gateway, right? It was just my
Right.
gateway. That's all it was. I wouldn't say it's their best record by far,
Right.
but to somebody who, you know, wasn't exposed to it, you need kind of like a little gentle exposure first, right?
This would be a gentle exposure because if you came right out the gate with Kill 'Em All, that's a lot.
It just would be noise.
That's a tall order.
Yeah, and it would have been kind of just noise, but this had enough. Here's the thing about music is that this had the immediate likability quality to it, right? And some of that derives from it being familiar, even though I've never heard it before. It's enough like something I've heard before where I can like it. If you have a new piece of music that you can't relate to something in the past, you might not like it at first, and you might need to listen to it over and over and over, and then, oh, okay, I get it now.
Right.
This one was like instant, I like it. Now the other side of that coin, though, is sometimes the stuff that you instantly like, you grow out of pretty quick. Right? You can instantly love it, but it's not going to age as well. And so that's kind of what my experience with those two records was. It was like instant, wow, I love it.
Right.
But it isn't like a repeat, over and over kind of.
Almost like I don't know. Yeah, we're dancing on the territory between like a hit and a classic. Like something
right.
that like lasts, that withstands the test of time versus something that's like it's really, really cool when it's alive and then it like fizzles out.
Right.
But okay, so let's listen to track 1 from the Black Album, and I can't even hate on it, because in terms of we talked about last week when we were analyzing punk music, the art of the album as a whole, you know, the album as a whole work of art, and being really thoughtful in your song selection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was a good first song for the album. So keeping that context in mind, let's give it a go.
And this is kind of classical in a way, because it's adding elements as you go. Oh, hearing this for the first time, imagine an audience hearing Beethoven's Fifth for the first time. It's like, whoa. And there's something primal about the drums, kind of caveman.
Wait, this is really the official music video? That's great. No, this is not the official music video!
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I think in terms of a first song on a record, fucking nailed it. We know they nailed it, and this is why I kind of like was hesitant to say like hit versus a classic, because this song has withstood the test of motherfucking time, bitch. They play this song to introduce football teams to the field. They use this song before people walk out in the WWE ring. Like, this song is badass. It's always going to be badass.
Yeah. And for me, besides the guitars kind of hit me the hardest there, but also the vocals too. This was so different vocally. You know, before this, like, I'd be listening to classic rock. Hey, hey, mama, see the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove.
That's fair.
You know, hey, baby, see the way you move. It's like some dude on helium or something. You know, it's like hey, 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 you know. This was a guy who was.
This is the hot take. This is the hot take, Robert Plant.
Yeah, it's like what now? Of course, now I could understand why he did that, right? Because it's nice to have separation. You know, when the vocal is way up there, it isn't clashing with the guitar. It's sitting on top of the guitar. If you're singing in your mid range, it's going to be the same frequencies.
So you think it's like a contrasting, like a mid versus treble kind of level?
Yeah. I think the vocals. They pop. They're on top of the rhythm guitar. If he was like, hey, mama, see the way you move, but he's like, hey, you hear it so much more clearly. And
interesting.
And so the way that Hetfield, he's kind of like he's higher up than he sounds. Like he's actually pretty high up there. But his delivery, just that the distortion that he's got on there is just
you're
like
blowing my mind right now, because like also like, okay, you couldn't say the same for like Jimi Hendrix, right? But we all like, nobody really reveres Jimi Hendrix as a good singer. He was kind of like Bob Dylan. However, when you think of like people who would be good contenders for greatest rock and roll bands of all time, you got AC/DC. Very high, trebly voice that stands out. Guns N' Roses. Aerosmith. Like, those guys get up there, you know? Even Rolling Stones. Like, you're getting up there sometimes, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Kilian, you're bringing up a good point, brother.
Yeah, and so point. So if you were to take those songs and take the vocals and put them an octave lower, it wouldn't be. It just would be it would be this. It would be more mellow. You know?
Right. All right. Are we ready? Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
Drums. Lars.
Yeah.
As much as we love and hate him. Dude, when I think of a clean drum sound,
Yeah.
I play an organ, I played Toccata Fugue. If the drums don't sound as clean as this on a recording, I don't want to hear them. What made this album also so great, despite the fact that it was getting a lot of shit from Metallica fans, Metallica purist fans, for being a little bit
sure.
sellout-y.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
It still provided
absolutely.
a variety of dynamics in the ways of
Yeah.
emotions that you would get from the songs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, taken straight from like the final scene of like a gunslinger movie or something, you know?
right. And like iconic guitar moments still.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this one is it starts quiet and then it goes loud.
Yeah.
Like the verse is loud, the chorus is quiet.
What was the other? Nothing Else Matters, right? Was
Oh yeah. That was like
so
a very
ballady.
for everything that came before them. You know, like this was my introduction, but for anybody who like listened to them in chronological order, this would be like sacrilegious or something. What is this? You know?
Right.
You know, and it also is the first time I believe they were primarily finger style, right?
Right.
Like they would do a little bit of that, but for just that no guitar pick,
Yes,
just
and
kind
it's
of
like everyone can do it and everyone does do it and it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like it's such a cool thing. Why did nobody else think of that? And it
yeah.
turns into something so fucking iconic and cool, you know? It's not
Yeah.
lame. Like doing that
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not lame.
yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of like a personal kind of lyrics where like, and now for most metal stuff I ignore the lyrics for most of the time, but for that one, right, he's goes from this guy, like a lot of guys. Look, I was born in 1980. A lot of guys in this generation didn't wear your emotions on your sleeve, right?
Right.
You didn't broadcast to the world, I'm feeling lonely. Oh, I'm out there on the road and I'm missing my woman or something. You would just be just kind of like, oh man, I'm just gonna, go out there on tour and I'm just gonna
Right.
fuck around and rock it, or sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and
Nobody can
right.
tell me
And
what to do.
and here he is. He's kind of like, hey, I'm lonely on the road, and like, I'm with all these people, but I don't really have a connection with them. I'm surrounded by people, but I don't have a connection. And it's just kind of this kind of stuff that I think it took a little bit of courage for him to start putting himself out there, the real him, rather than, somebody singing about some abstract thing like, oh, bang your head until it doesn't bang, or
right.
or something like that, or kick all ass,
Yeah.
or protest, war or something like that, wearing your emotions.
Right.
So
And
it
being
was a little bit of
honest.
progress, yeah, to be a human rather than just some kind of rock star.
Dude, and I think that, full circle moment all kind of ties into what I experienced from the punk music that I was listening to, the newer punk music in the last episode, because trad punk was all like, you know, anti-establishment and fuck the man and fuck the government and being anarchy, like being an anarchist and, you know, whatever, and political. And 2000s emo punk was very like, fuck you, you bitch, you broke my fucking heart, you know. And then like this kind of like new wave of punk that we were listening to last week was a little bit more like, it was a little bit less like cheesy and corny than the 2000s emo punk, but it gave the same energy of traditional punk of fuck you to the government, but instead of the government, it was like, yo, fuck this guy that we're on tour with. I'm literally gonna like fucking choke you out, you piece of shit, you know, and giving that same like real honest raw emotion. But that didn't, to your point, really exist in rock and roll, you know. Before this album, and arguably the Nirvana album that we're gonna look at as well. Where before that it was very like, I'm the man, and you know, I fuck women, and I make rock music, and fuck you.
And
Motley
then other
Crue,
things
Scorpions.
too. Exactly. Just like cliches, right? Cliches is kind of what it was. And then the other thing too is like, you know, like for instance, also, like Led Zeppelin, for instance. I mean, some of their lyrics, I mean, are just so blatantly. These are guys that are living in Wales, okay? They're living in Scotland or Wales or England, but they're singing like they're in Alabama or something. Big-legged woman ain't got no soul, or, you know, it's like, look, come on, guys. You know, it's
in the bayou.
You know, it's just kind of like, you know, like it's kind of like, come on.
Like appealing to
There's
that.
an authenticity gap there.
For sure. I love that. An authenticity gap, band name, called it. Write it down. I agree with what you said, that I think this era was the beginning of our emotions seeping into popular rock music in a meaningful capacity, where it was believable, where it was authentic in a way.
Creeping into it, at least, you know, a little more mainstream to, you know,
accepted. This I like this song.
Oh yeah.
So you said. So you said Whiplash in the comments. Whiplash is my favorite Kill Them All song, and I think this kept that vibe alive, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's not Whiplash.
This song, it sounds like it would fit on their record previous to this one, that And Justice for All.
Yeah, And Justice for All, for sure.
You know, it's got that, it would fit right in. It wouldn't be out of place. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I thought that was cool, and kind of like, you know, was meant to keep the purists at bay a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
I think you might be right. You
stop
know?
Yelling at us. You know.
Yeah.
We're still doing our thing. After this album, I can't speak for anything. I can't speak for Some Kind of Monster, like any of that stuff.
You're right.
You know? But like,
right.
I thought this did it to him.
It definitely was a throwback to their earlier stuff.
Honestly, who are we? Who are we to not acknowledge? If we're going to talk about Metallica.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. 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 Now, the verse, that time signature will kind of mess with you.
This right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Also, what makes that so powerful too, I have to point out, the start and stop, the silence between those hits.
Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah, the silence makes it so powerful. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then between the master, it's got silence there too.
Also, I love a stripped back and then punching into something. I love when it's like you were saying, like when the instruments build on each other, when you isolate one part and then layer it up. I like it when it's super dramatic, when it's something acoustic that turns into something like real metal. Like One by Metallica is a perfect example of like that's my city right there.
Yeah.
But even this, like earlier Metallica like this keeps the dynamic the whole time. Like it's always driving. But they will change the tempo. They'll change the vibe. They'll change the like time signature, little subtle things that you don't really know what's happening, but it feels like a different song. Even the song that when it's it's like what?
Like, and in that particular song, how they totally go mellow for a minute or two.
I would like to turn the attention to the other album that you brought up, which is Nevermind by Nirvana. What genres where would you place? Let's say, okay, I'm going to be fair to you. I'm going to be fair to you here. Where would you place the Black Album? Not Metallica as a whole, right? But the Black Album. What genre?
It's so funny because I'm 43 now, okay? and attitudes and things have totally changed. You know, for instance, at the time, the Black Album, wow, that's heavy, right? But now it would be, most people would call that something like classic rock. and it's so funny. Nirvana, the same thing. At the time, it's this alternative, it's grunge, it's something. But now I think it would probably get lumped in with that classic rock kind of a thing. And now here's the sad thing. The music that I was a little kid for is now classic.
Well, okay. So we're all kind of in that boat. All right.
Yeah. So I think I'd probably call it, classic, right? Probably.
So, okay. So then I have to ask then, what genre would you put Kill 'Em All in, or like Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Justice for All? Would you put them in a different genre category?
Yeah. So definitely like there's this thing called thrash metal. Right.
There is a thing called thrash. I've heard of it.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I think this stuff that kind of typifies thrash metal is a lot of that kind of a thing, right?
Okay.
That's kind of like, or to do another one like Slayer. So that kind of just that.
Okay, so we're putting those 3 Metallica albums and Slayer in the category of thrash.
The thing is that what I love about Metallica is they I mean, you can't call Fade to Black thrash metal. There's nothing thrash about that one.
Right.
Even the heavy parts, right? I mean, it'll go. That isn't really thrash.
So wait, would you... No, Chutch, don't be sorry. Thank you for the follow. So wait, so would you still...
So I would call it their thrash period, though. I would call it their thrash period with a couple exceptions.
Would you say the Black Album should still be considered metal?
Not by today's standards. No, I mean there's like Through the Never is pretty metal. Holier Than Thou is pretty metal, but Sandman, no. you know.
I think you're spitting. I think you're spitting. I think you're right. I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think you're right. I do.
Definitely back then it was, yeah, definitely back then. Now is it would be metal, but by today's standards we've changed, you know,
I agree with you.
as people. And the other thing too is that um I wasn't alone in that being people's first exposure to this kind of heavier kind of music, you
Right.
know. And um uh, music really uh, depends on its context, right? Something is only heavy relative to something else, right? And so the stuff that came before that wasn't all that heavy, right?
Right.
But now there's such extreme stuff out there.
Right.
that,
Like that was exactly the point I was trying to make last week is like there are metalheads that would laugh at Whiplash, you know? But at the time
right.
Whiplash came out, it was the heaviest
Yeah.
shit that there was, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's different. The standards are different. I agree with you. You
Yeah.
fucking said it, Kilian. You said okay. Let's talk about Nirvana, and I was setting you
Yeah.
up for that question because what genre do you think Nirvana is, at least in the context of the album Nevermind?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
have to go with the classic rock, right? I just have to call it classic rock there.
Okay. All right. We're gonna listen,
Yeah.
kids. Grab your glass. Is it classic rock? Oh no! Is it classic rock?
Just like the Black Album, though, listen to the drums. You know, there's the drums really pop.
Oh my god, look at little Dave! First of all, I started laughing because you've said multiple times now that lyrics are not super important to you, which I find so interesting considering that you brought up this particular album. And
Right.
I will say that Kurt Cobain, wow, Freudian slip much. Kurt Cobain was revered for his dark, poetic, lyrical style, and often compared to Jim Morrison, who was a prolific lyricist of his time. I think
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, I know that a lot of people look to this lyrical style as a pivotal moment for lyrics,
Right.
and in terms of being raw, and kind of what you were saying about Metallica as well. So I find it so interesting that you've referenced many times that lyrics are not that important to you.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that now Nirvana, I believe, is exceptional in a few different ways, where I actually do listen to the lyrics, because when a band is like really too explicit about what they mean, and I don't mean like explicit in terms of like, you know, maturity level, or I just mean like to the point. Like, are they like, you know exactly what they're talking about? There's no other way to interpret
Right.
it.
Like
right?
no ambiguity. Like there's no mystery.
Yeah, ambiguity. Exactly. There's
Yeah.
no ambiguity. So for some things, yeah, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope that's a metaphor, because that lyric is dumb as hell. It's like, you know, it's,
No
you know, like some
offense,
of the
but
Tom,
that sucked.
like some of the Tom Petty stuff, you know, and I love him, but you know, it's like, you know, um, I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. You know, it's kind of like, uh, all right, okay. Like he's having a hard time coming down off drugs or something. Coming
Right.
down from a high. So you hope it's a metaphor, not like a kid jumping off the roof, and he forgot.
Right.
So so there, but something like that. It's pretty clear. Even there, it's pretty clear what with Kurt Cobain. I've heard so many people offer so many different interpretations of what he meant, and I believe there is ambiguity and there is room for interpretation with a lot of his stuff. Um, and the same thing like with Jim Morrison. Sometimes, yeah, it's unambiguous, but there's a lot of ambiguity with I believe with Kurt Cobain's stuff. So I wasn't afraid to kind of delve into the lyrics.
Right.
And because sometimes when there is no ambiguity, I don't I kind of lose my connection with the song a little bit, right? When
100%.
I'm open to interpret it myself, it can be
100%.
like my song, right? It could be like I it's my connection to the song, right? it
Right.
it feels like when it's too much, when somebody's unambiguous, that's clearly somebody else's song, and I can enjoy it, but I don't really feel it as much.
100%. And I that's again why I thought it was so interesting that you had already told me that lyrics were not super important to you, and then you hit me with a Nirvana album, and I was like, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that you can appreciate the ambiguity
Yeah.
there. Also, I want to say thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chris,
Mr. Chris is
too.
here. Yeah, Mr.
Thank you
Chris.
for the
Yeah, see you,
follow.
buddy.
Um,
You know what's
s-
so funny, by the way? I think is it song number 2, In Bloom, talks exactly what I'm talking about.
right.
There's a line in that song. Are you familiar with it?
Look, I have it pulled
The
up.
the
Look, I
the
have it pulled
lyrics
up
for
right here.
In
Look
yeah,
it.
pull up the lyrics for In Bloom, okay?
Yeah.
He's the one that likes all our pretty songs, but he don't know what it means.
Right.
But that was one of my first riffs I ever played on guitar.
Super interesting chord structure. Not
Yeah.
not something that's copied.
This.
Is this directly making fun of the Beatles?
No,
It
no.
looks like it, doesn't it? A little bit.
Oh, you mean the visual
Yeah.
aspect of it? Oh, yeah. I thought you meant the lyrics.
No, the video. It kind of looks like it is.
Yeah. That whole kind of, or Buddy Holly.
Yeah. So, I love ambiguous lyrics, and I personally think that
Yeah.
ambiguous lyrics can be the
Yeah.
the make or break, like the actual difference between what makes a song a classic versus a hit, what makes a
Mm-hmm.
song like something that's going to withstand the test of time.
Yeah.
I think the ambiguity has to be there. There are a lot of like Led Zeppelin songs that fall into
Yeah.
that, and a part of it. I mean, the major part is like not anchoring the song in in like something that exists right now, you know, like not
Mm-hmm.
referencing an iPhone or the internet
Right.
or
Yeah.
like things that are like they're only relevant to me right now in this moment,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just being as vague as possible in a way
Yeah.
that like you can relate
Yeah.
the nature of the lyrics to almost any situation down the road.
Right.
There's a beauty in that, but the I think the taxing part of that as a musician as well as a songwriter is to not reveal so much about your own personal life experience that they're able to
Right.
relate it to
Yeah.
what has happened, which takes away from the ambiguity of it. There has to be this
Yeah.
like, you know, ambient mystery happening. Because
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you know that, like, you know, what's happening with Fleetwood Mac is like she's singing about him on the stage,
Yeah.
it's not about you anymore. It's not you
Yeah.
relating it to
Exactly.
your life experience anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. For me, at
Kurt
least, it
Cobain
kind of
lives
it
there.
severs the connection a little bit. I can still appreciate it for what it is, but I don't really feel the connection so much.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of artists, especially now, but you know, even then that really got away with keeping that mystery. But people like Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, who died young, that never told their story, we still view those songs as these like mysterious, ambiguous messages that we'll never have the
Yeah.
answers to.
Yeah.
You know?
Now I like this one though, because this one he's like calling out people like me, you know,
Yeah.
and you know basically, you know, and I think he wrote this one because like in high school, right? He's the outcast, right? And he's a skinny guy, and he's in kind of a redneck part of Washington, and like they, you know, we're gonna beat up the skinny guy and we're gonna go shoot our guns and all this kind of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and then he gets to be this rock guy, and he sees the same guys who are, you know, the jocks beating him up, all that, they're all at his shows and they're headbanging along because like me,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm into the guitar, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, and you know, I don't care that the lyrics are mocking me,
Right.
you know, like he's the one that likes our pretty songs and likes to sing
But he
along and
has no
shoot his gun,
idea
but he
that we're
don't know what
fucking
it
making fun
means.
of him
Yeah,
because he's such a dumbass,
exactly.
which is the whole point of the
Exactly,
song.
exactly. So, so some of these kind of like you know, that one's a little more unambiguous, but
Yeah.
I like the honesty of it as
Right.
well. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, we're kind of like bridging the gap there of that. And then the last song I just wanted to bring up just to
Mm-hmm.
again highlight the dynamic range of the song
Oh yeah.
selection. Polly, I mean,
Oh yeah.
like I was never a huge fan of like real ballady
Mm-hmm.
songs in this
Yeah.
type of rock genre. This is
Yeah.
about as subdued as I want it to be. And yes, super iconic album cover. Controversial and iconic album cover. We'll see if I get TOS for it. I'm sure I could fight it. I was grateful that these were the two albums that you chose.
Yeah.
Also, two albums that I know very well, and like I said before we even got into this section, that I would take in a completely different context. And I think because I'm like a rock and roll girl from a rock and roll cover band, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, sometimes in my mind these albums have like a corny existence to
Mm-hmm.
me now.
Right. Yeah.
But in the context of your life and how you experienced music for the first time, it totally makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
It's this is why I do this. This is why I like this show, is to uncover
Yeah.
these things about people,
Yeah.
especially musicians. I think it's perfect, Kilian. It was literally the perfect two albums for you to pick, and the setup with the Mozart. I'm I'm proud of you that you came
Oh.
that you came here from Mozart to Metallica. That should be the name of your autobiography.
You know, emotional intensity. They were both a little bit rebellious at the time, right? And um, you think about also something like Symphony 41, kind of the power of it, or the Beethoven, the power of it. The same thing with the Metallica and Nirvana. There's just something powerful about these,
Right.
and I mean they just really grab your ear, like that, especially that last In Bloom. Like that was like the second riff I think I ever played. Or how's it go?
Right.
It just like, it just really hits you hard.
Right.
You
Right.
know, like,
We are going to do our speed run section. All right,
yeah.
for everybody watching. In the speed run section, I'm going to ask Kilian his favorite of each category. He's going to hit us with a hit and run, no explanation necessary.
But can I do an explanation if I feel like it or no?
You can.
Okay.
I'm not going to
Okay.
grill you on
Okay.
it for
All right.
in the essence of
Gotcha.
time.
I'll keep it short.
But
though.
if you want
Yeah.
to hit us with your mic
Sure.
drop reasoning, you can.
Sure.
I'm
Absolutely.
certainly not going to stop you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. Favorite hip hop artist?
Well, I'd have to say NWA and Common. I couldn't decide between either one of those.
Love it.
Number one, NWA, man. It opened my eyes. It totally opened my eyes. Like, just imagine like some guy from the suburbs. Are the police really that bad? Are they that awful? And then the Rodney King tape drops, where you see it on video, and you're like, shit, these guys weren't lying. These guys were telling the fucking truth. I mean, wow. It kind of like it took it showed me the world wasn't so innocent, right? Now, Common, he's kind of the opposite for me.
He's like a sweet, fun-loving,
yeah,
like
because he's the kind of
women-loving.
yeah, and I
guy.
like this one lyric. I don't know all of his stuff, but he's got this one lyric. I never call you my bitch or even my boo.
There's so much in a name and so much more in you.
Yeah, yeah,
If you understand the dynamic between woman and man.
Yeah, so I thought that was nice, So between those two, they might be a little bit on the opposite side, but I like them both.
Don't take a whole day to recognize sunshine. I love it.
Yeah.
Those were two great answers. The next one's a really hard one, Kilian.
Yeah.
Rock artist.
Yeah, you're right. That is a really hard one. And boy, yeah, that's I couldn't decide. It's just like it's a tough one.
If you don't want to hit it, we can skip it.
Yeah,
You want to skip?
I'd have to toss a coin.
All right, we're gonna skip. All right, electronic artist or DJ?
Yeah, well, I go with some of the pioneers, right? Like Kraftwerk, and then Moby, right? Go with some of the pioneers of this kind of a thing. Just like
Okay.
By today's standards, you would think, wow, this is kind of. But I'm gonna go with those two.
Okay. Pop.
Yeah, pop artist. Boy, how about Madonna?
Let's go, Madonna. She deserves to be here.
Yeah, and plus she plays a mean metal guitar.
Period.
She could do everything.
Eminem has words for Moby.
Yeah.
Okay, punk artist.
I don't know about that feud, Chutch, but that sounds pretty funny.
A Moby, you can get stomped by Obi.
Yeah.
Punk
So,
artist.
Punk artist. Oh gosh. Well, I'm gonna go old school. Okay, and these are like two bands that I just they're old, but I love them. Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys.
Let's
To
go.
me, I really love those both.
Okay. 2000s emo punk.
I'm not their hugest fan, but I was trying to think. I was kind of thinking there was this band back then called Thrice.
Yes.
That
My favorite
Yeah.
drummer, Riley Breckenridge.
yeah,
Okay.
I like their stuff.
Great
their
choice.
music, their lyrics too.
Okay,
it didn't really turn me off.
Kilian, I like you. Okay, country artist.
I almost like to feel like he isn't even like a country guy so much, but people call him country. Johnny Cash,
Yeah,
and
he is.
it's just the way that he. I really like that. He was like a rock and roll guy getting into trouble and doing drugs and stuff, and he. But he kind of like he brought this perspective of actually having gone to jail and the sympathy for the prisoners and going to the Folsom Prison Blues and San Quentin, and he wasn't just speaking the words, he lived the life too.
Right.
And so I think he had a good heart, from what I could tell.
All right, metal artist.
Yeah, that's another one where I just couldn't,
Okay. All right. Classical artist.
Now, are you talking about like a composer, or are you talking about like somebody like an instrumentalist kind of? Like,
we're gonna go composer.
Yeah. Composer wise, I'm just gonna have to go with Beethoven. Just because. And look, there's so many great choices. But he really hits on a really good range of emotions for me.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And
the
like
romantic era.
like Symphony Number 6. That one, right? It isn't anything like 5.
Yeah, the Moonlight
right?
Sonata, dude.
Yeah, Moonlight Sonata. And within Moonlight Sonata, it starts mellow, but then it gets intense.
Dun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that one. I mean, I could even have said Bach, because he was so prolific. If you think of like a desert island, like, oh, who are you going to take with you on a desert island? You only get one choice, maybe Bach, right? You could just. He was so prolific, you would never run out of stuff to listen to with him.
And so that's kind of that's kind of the point. I try not to give too much in this section. Like it's supposed to just be like a speed round, but that that's what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
Is if you could only choose one forever.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Bluegrass. You got anything for bluegrass?
There was this old group, Flat and Scruggs, and so.
They're the first on the board, so Flat and Scruggs it is.
Yeah.
Jazz.
Probably, and this was another tough one, but I'm gonna go with Miles Davis, and who knows if I ever play trumpet.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Any others you want to highlight before we move on?
I just really think that it's really cool when artists go outside their comfort zone and try other stuff. Props to Taylor Swift, right? Because she started out as country, but then she became pop, but then she became something else. And she was willing to have the courage to throw it all out the window and say, fuck genres. I'm gonna be country this year, but next year I'm gonna be pop, and next year, who knows? Nobody knows what she's gonna do in her next incarnation,
Oh, wait, Kilian, did you watch the last episode?
I didn't see if you were.
Taylor got dragged in the last episode.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh okay. Yeah, well,
Taylor,
I
this is
give
your
her props,
comeback.
and she could mark it. Sure, she can. Yeah.
Okay. No, you know what you said. Everything needs to be said. I defended her a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
I just think she's courageous. For
I
being
agree
able
with
to do
you.
it. But
I agree with you.
but-
And she
but-
wasn't a bad country artist either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and my defense of her wasn't like, oh, you should like her music, because that's up to you, baby. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
But she is a musician, and she works hard, and she came into the market with one sound, which is hard to do. Like, when you are a musician and you want to do the version of you that you want, but you can break into a demographic and then use that to do the stuff that you really love to do. That's hard, and it's strategic, and it's smart. And marketing and being a good strategist is one thing.
Yeah.
But she's a good performer. She works fucking hard, and she's a musician. So I gotta support my girl. I got to.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and just courageous, you know. I mean, there's some bands, you know, like I love AC/DC, I love Slayer, but they never really had the courage to, you know, do a 180 on you or
Sure.
whatever.
Or well, maybe
You
they
know?
and maybe they didn't have to. Like, maybe that wasn't their path.
Yeah,
But, you
right.
know, I see some controversial takes in the chat, and you know what? We're gonna save those because we need to have a show dedicated to that, because
All right.
you know what? We need to put that in the FMM channel to talk about, because I don't think Lady Gaga is like that. I think Lady Gaga has been one speed the whole time, but she's authentic, and you know who she is, and a lot of us have really like believed in that. You know, she's also a musician, like a real musical person. She got booed at the Patriots game a few days ago. I would love to talk about this with you guys, but we must move on, because this is Kilian's show, and it's Kilian's turn to die on that hill, okay? And this is one of my favorite parts of this show, all right? And Kilian, I know you're a nice guy, and, you know, I like you. You're a very likable person, but that's not what Die on This Hill is about, okay? You gotta say what you gotta say, all right? So, I like to start out Die on This Hill on a positive note. Which album or artist do you think deserves more recognition or should be highlighted? All right, this is gonna be our palate cleanser.
Yeah. Gosh. You know. In terms of like when people are talking about like all these like big rock bands, for instance, there was this one that I don't think, I mean, a lot of people know them, but I just don't hear them talked about that much. Was this band called King Crimson?
King Crimson.
King Crimson.
Okay.
And
Chat, you got that?
they
King Crimson.
Yeah, King Crimson. And I'll type it out in the chat for you right there. And I just don't hear too many people talk about them as like, you know, making their, you know, favorites or anything. But these were really interesting musically. You know, they would sing about stuff that weren't the, the cliched, sex, drugs, rock and roll themes. They would sing about different stuff.
Oh, hold on.
Their music would be different. And so, you know, I think that they were definitely one that I think could use a little more love.
Okay. Oh. Is that an orchestra?
Yeah, they would do all kinds of different stuff. and their guitar, very interesting guitar.
Sexy. Ah!
Yeah, this isn't your standard, guitar solo.
Church, I don't need to know that at all. Oh, that note is so...
Down, dazzling day, go through my eyes, but my eye turn within, only see starless sand, Bible
Yeah, you got like an oboe there.
Hey,
Oboe
what the
solo,
fuck?
everybody.
Okay, yes. All right, period. All right. That was nice. Let's talk about some fucked up shit. Okay. Die on that hill. Let's talk about something that's happening in the industry that grinds your gears.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
hold
I already gave you I gave you one of
back.
my grandpa rants about where the hell are the dynamics, Jesus.
That's like the
Uh,
tamest, like, I just wish there was, a little bit of the dynamic change, have they heard of volume, have they heard of pianissimo,
yeah, right,
fortissimo, mezzo, soprano,
look, I mean, just to hit it a little bit harder,
Yeah.
put a finer point on it. I mean, look, for there to be music, okay, for there to be music, you got to have notes, you got to have dynamics, you've got to have rhythm, you've got to have tone, phrasing, feel, space. And if you're missing one of those things, man, is it really music if you don't have everything like that, right? So that's kind of the thing that bothers me the most. The other thing too, though, is that I kind of miss. I'll give a kind of a hot take, and this is kind of like criticizing people like myself, is that because people like me, we can put stuff out there without gatekeepers, right? The gatekeepers were kind of like quality control. They're like, they were like, this shit ain't gonna go public until we work on this, guys. We gotta clean this. Let's have you've seen the making of an album, right? The making of it, where they'll do 30 vocal takes, or they'll do 20. Instead, now these days, they don't do that. They fix it on the computer, right?
Right.
Oh, you don't sing good. Oh, that no problem. I got Melodyne. I'll drag your note into pitch.
Right.
Oh, you got bad timing. Oh, no problem. I'll fit you to the grid.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, I think we're good, something that I have to remind myself big time is that I don't want to fall into this kind of like crutch where I could make this really great sounding music someday, but I can't perform it live because I'm so like, oh my goodness, I'm just tied to the computer.
Right.
And and so I think that's kind of the one thing that, and then the other thing too, I think we do need, we need is, since we don't have the traditional gatekeepers, I think, for me, I I think every artist should have appoint their own personal gatekeeper, somebody who they know is going to be honest with
To
them,
hire
right?
someone.
Like is going to be honest with them, and that's what I always encourage people to do on my stream, right?
Mm,
I don't want it to be like a celebration of, well, gosh, you're sucking at the video game, Kilian, and you're sucking at the music, but we're gonna cheer you on anyway.
oh my
It's
God,
kind of
Kilian.
it's kind of like 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 we need to, I just we just have to kind of, accept our. Here's what I preach: accept yourself for where you are at the stage of your journey, right? You can't become amazing, in 1 second, right? It's a process, right? And so, hey, look, I'm at this part of my
Right.
journey. I hope to get to there some point, right? So you accept yourself, but
Right.
but also you got to have standards. You got to have standards,
Right.
and because you don't have gatekeepers, you can make something absolutely horrible and upload it, and on the basis of, you being popular, uh, you could
Right.
use your already established popularity to make something completely garbage uh, go,
Kilian, don't
viral.
trigger me. Don't trigger me into talking about Machine Gun Kelly right now, because that's exactly what you're about to do. And you are bringing something back up that you said earlier, which is being appreciating where you are in your journey. And
Yeah.
as a musician, that has become so important to me, because musicianship or people's understanding of music can begin at different stages in their life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not my responsibility to help people along on their journey or onto the next step of wherever they are, but it is my responsibility to appreciate where I am and how far that
Mm-hmm.
I've come. And that's when every time you reference that, that's what I think about is, yeah, at when you said earlier, at this stage of my music journey, genres are not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand exactly what you mean by that, because to an extent it doesn't matter. In my music journey, it doesn't matter. I don't care where
Mm-hmm.
people categorize my music. That's not why
Right.
I make it. I'm not making my music to fit
Mm-hmm.
into. I'm not making my music to be like, I'm a southern rock artist.
Uh-huh.
I know, because I talk about genres, that that's where it fits. But that's not why it matters.
Right.
You know,
Right.
there are.
And does now does it help you kind of like, put a little bit of a limitation on where you might go with something? Um,
Um, no, I think it has helped me understand where I feel comfortable, because
mm-hmm.
I studied jazz, I studied opera,
Yeah.
I was in a rock band. I wanted to do
Yeah.
punk music for a while. I was doing like reggae covers for a while. Like I
Yeah.
had all this range, but nothing that really like spoke to me. And blues is really my thing, you know? And southern rock is like this extension of blues. And being able to fit somewhere makes it easier for me to hear something and be like, that's my sound. And
Yeah.
that's where like vocally can fit my vocal style there, where it didn't
Yeah.
fit anywhere before.
Yeah, yeah. You
That I was
mentioned
trying
to
to
me
put it.
about how when you were doing opera, how you were wanting to incorporate these kind of slides
The
and
scoops. Yeah, I got in
yeah,
trouble.
scoops and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I got in
yeah,
trouble for scooping. I got
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Well,
the
you
s-
you get in trouble for doing opera.
yeah,
Like
the
just
scoop
like
police
like
came
a
out.
like, but for your for Southern rock, if you're this rigid, every note is on the point.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna work. That's
Yeah,
not gonna work.
exactly.
At the end of the day, the next section is really truly like what sparked the idea for this whole show originally.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you've read the prompt because there's no way that I could just spring this on somebody without letting them give it a little thought beforehand.
Yeah.
Viewers and listeners of me and the show know what's coming, but this section is called the questions, and we start the top of this section with the question. The question is, what do you think is the greatest rock and roll song of all time, considering
Yeah.
what you think we could all agree on as musicians and non-musicians? If I was asking everybody, non-musicians, really prolific, profound musicians, people that don't really care about music, music enthusiasts, people that are wives, sisters, mothers, brothers of band members, people involved in the scene, people not. If we were just taking a census poll across everyone of every different demographic, what song do you think we could all agree is the greatest rock and roll song of all time? I've been asking this question for a while, and this is the first time that I'm officially asking on record. I'm not giving anyone the true answer because I don't know it yet. And I'm taking record, and there is a leaderboard that exists. I have an Excel document, and I'm keeping record of everyone's answers. So, you get a top 3, and I will put them all in the leaderboard.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, for number one, and boy, I bet you this is not on the leaderboard, but it might be. It might be. But I'm gonna go with The Who. Won't Get Fooled Again.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that one because it's got the elements of, man, it's just a great rock song.
Won't Get Fooled Again. The Who.
It's got soft, it's got loud, it's got a drum solo, it's got and the vocals when he just comes out of that and he just screams, yeah. I mean, that's the sound of rock and roll. Yeah. Just like, yeah.
Yes.
Coming out of the drums, yeah, and so I'll go with that one. And
all right, you got 2 more.
2 more. All right, 2 more. Gosh.
If you want to just stick with Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yeah. So let me just give me 10 seconds. Let me just kind of think. Do I want to do another one there? I'm gonna go with The Kinks. You Really Got Me.
Oh my God. All right.
It's just basic and it's and then just going back to the roots, Johnny Be Good.
Yeah, that I'm surprised that one hasn't come up more so far, but Johnny Be Good. Okay. Perfect. All right, palate cleanser. Your subjective, personal favorite rock and roll songs. Subjective. Whatever you feel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Yeah, yes, it's definitely based on the kind of mood I'm in, the kind of mood I'm in. Um, uh, as far as like, yeah, I'll go for sometimes I just want to have cheesy fun, where it's not emotional, it's just a good old time, and there's
Hmm.
nothing quite like Van Halen for that, it's just a good time, that's all it is.
Any particular song?
I'll go with how about uh just yeah, I'm a little bit of a contrarian, okay, but we'll go with the Hagar period, the Sammy Hagar period,
Okay.
and I'll go with Dreams. We'll go with Dreams. We'll get higher and higher, straight up we'll fly. And his voice is like, you know, we'll get higher, leave it all behind.
All right. Um, Favorite artists or musicians of all time?
Favorite artist or musician of all time. Yeah, favorite artists or musicians of all time. Um, boy, uh, anybody who you know bears their soul and just like leaves nothing on the table. Who just you know I can't nail it down to any particular one, but I'm just gonna just more vaguely just put it. And I have such great respect for the people who they totally get lost in what they're doing. They're not thinking. They just are able to just go up there and just do their thing, and you can see it sometimes on their faces where they're in the moment. They're not looking at, they're not thinking, they're just they're on this kind of spiritual level of being the music, not just
Right.
playing it, but actually being the music. And it's something that I just strive to have, um, where I where I'm not playing the music, I am the music. You know,
Be the ball.
where
Be the ball.
this is not a foreign object. Okay, this
Right.
is this is part of me, right?
I agree. I
And
agree with that so much. Where I know I can tell when I'm watching people where like the piano is just an extension of them, and
yeah,
or like they know where the vocal line is going. They know every note that's about to happen. It with the guitar, same thing, and
and they're just channeling.
channeling. And I think I get closer and closer to it, but never once in my life have I really felt like I was that i- that in sync with it, where I was like,
Yeah,
I know exactly what this note's gonna sound like when I play.
for
That
me
makes
for me it's happened in for I like I'll experience it like 10 seconds. Okay.
right, right.
It's kind of like, what, and I don't know if you're a believer in religion or not. I'm not particularly a believer, but there is a story of Peter, one of Jesus's disciples, walking on water. Okay. And as long as he believes, he can walk on water. But at the second he starts doubting, he starts to drown.
Right.
Okay. Well, this is the kind of with the music, wow, i'm I'm playing, I'm not thinking about it, I'm just channeling, and then some kind of thought will creep into my mind, and then I lose it, right? It's like this kind of zen where your brain is empty, and you're not even really in control of it, you're
Right.
not even in conscious control,
You're
and you're
lost
just
in the
playing.
sauce, baby.
Yeah,
You're
and and
lost in the
and and
sauce.
and it's just as like to me that was like kind of like a spiritual kind of experience, or as close as it gets to. And I only have had this in like fleeting 5 or 10 second moments before, something will kind of interrupt it. Usually my own thinking. Uh,
My intrusive thoughts
yeah,
are my own
exactly.
worst enemy. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what I just hope to do is, basically just kind of get into that zone, teach myself. Really believe you could teach yourself to kind of get into the zone where where the intrusive thoughts aren't going to be happening so much.
Right.
And I think it's kind of like practice.
Agree. Agree. Okay. We're getting down here. Do you have a favorite song?
Uh,
Most
no.
most people
no,
don't.
Yeah.
Do you have a guilty pleasure song?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't feel guilty about it now because I'm an unapologetic 43-year-old.
I love that for you.
So I don't have any guilty pleasures, but yeah, as a kid, I wouldn't want anybody seeing me listening to Billy Joel. like I'm like this, like,
I'm telling
I'm
him
like,
you said that.
yeah, like I was like, driving to school, and oh my god, the kids are gonna hear that I'm rocking out to Billy Joel or something. I better put it on something else, or they're gonna judge me or something. Now it didn't take me long. I was not a conformist. Okay, like, by the time I'd say by the time I was fourth or fifth grade, I was fiercely independent, right? And that I was that way from that age on. I didn't really conform to anybody, and but before that, um, you know, I would be like, oh, I wouldn't want people to see me listening to Billy Joel or something. I wouldn't want people to hear me
And then you were
listening
like,
to Air Supply or something.
if it's not Mozart, I'm really not fucking with it. So
Yeah.
y'all can. We built this city.
Yeah, we built this city on rock and roll. Yeah.
Period. Well, Kilian, this brings me to my last point. Did you bring a song?
Did I bring a song to listen to? Well, you know what? There's one song that I kind of revisited a little while ago, and that I hadn't heard in a while, and it was by Van Halen, called "Right Now."
Okay.
And
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close the show out with a song brought by Kilian.
And I believe it also came out in 1991.
Of course it did. The song, the year when all your dreams came true. What's happening?
I can't see the video, but where are we at on it? You can tell me a timestamp.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I could hear it just fine.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, Kilian. We're at 103. Dude, it's giving like U2 trying to save the world. I will wrestle you for food, is what that said. it, Kilian! Listen, everyone, mic drop for my friend Kilian, who agreed to be here with me today. He did his homework. He brought me a song. We had an amazing discussion.
And you know what? For a serial procrastinator like me, right fucking now. You know, let's do it right now.
A serial
Why put it off
procrastinator.
another day, right?
Dude, thank you so
Seize
fucking
the
much.
moment.
Thank you so
Yeah.
fucking much for doing this with me. This was so wonderful.
Absolutely.
You're
My absolute
exactly
pleasure.
the person that I want to have these types of conversations with. Thoroughly enjoyed this with you. I hope you did too.
Yeah, had a great time. Had a great time.
I love this. I love this. Do you have any final closing statements that you would like to make?
I don't talk over a 80 Van Halen guitar solo.
Period.
All right, yeah. Yeah. And I just want to thank you for having me here, and you know, just such a great time here, and music is something that it's been my companion through good times, bad times, every in between times, and you know, so here's to music and all the music lovers, and it's just a real pleasure for me to talk with somebody who not only loves it, but actually also it makes the effort to understand why you love it so much. And I think understanding, you know, definitely makes me appreciate it even more.
I agree. Thank you so much for that, Kilian, and thank you for being here. I can only emulate everything that you said. It just makes me so happy to have these conversations with people that want to, well, that already appreciate music but are willing to pick it apart with me in a respectful way, in a way that helps us appreciate it even more. And I definitely feel like this conversation helped me gain a little bit more appreciation from different perspectives, which is exactly what I was trying to do. So,
yeah, me too. Me too.
Thank you for that. So, everyone, please thank my guest Kilian for being here. I mean, what else can we ask for in a guest? Kilian, my friend. Kilian, who I can honestly say is my friend now after this conversation. Thank
Absolutely.
you so fucking much, and I will see you next time. You're the best.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. This has been episode number 2 of Fuck, Marry, Music. Thanks for being here. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have done this once again with somebody who I respect and adore. I'm so happy. Thank you guys so much for being here, for supporting me, Kilian, the music industry. Much appreciated. I hope everybody has a great and wonderful evening. I hope everybody had a great time. Did you guys have a great time? I had a great time. Wow. What a day. What a night. What a show. Well, thank you guys. If you liked it, make sure you are part of the Discord channel and part of the crew. And we'll be back next week with another guest. Thanks again. Love you guys. I'll see you later. We did, didn't we? Alright, bye everyone.
Wow.